to you by Blerdography.
I'm a voice actor, and you've forgotten something fundamental, Captain. That fancy sword of yours is only a piece of metal, and that means it belongs to me.
Pokemon! This is the Pokemon Club. You got my note? About Pokemon? You're Ash from the Kanto region, aren't you?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, then I'm challenging you to a battle, right here and now.
You've forgotten something fundamental, Captain. That fancy sword of yours is only a piece of metal, and that means it belongs to me!
Firstly, congratulations on your engagement.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Next question. What is the biggest struggle you had as a person of color voice actor?
The biggest struggle? It's, to make it short, I guess it's, the biggest thing is knowing how much harder I have to work for the same opportunities as people that don't look like me. There's a lot more effort that has to go into hitting people up. And in general, acting and artistry, and no matter what it is, acting, actual art or whatever, it's no small feat. No matter what your skin color is, it's difficult. But I do know that there's a lot of things that, especially more towards the beginning of my career, where there was other people that were starting off around the same time that were getting the opportunities and the success a lot faster than I did. Not, obviously they're skillful, but there was just things that I wasn't seeing that I saw other people seeing. So I was like, that sucks. So that would be the biggest obstacle, is having to remind people I exist way more often. Yeah.
So you, your fiance, and Zell are like very hilarious on Twitter. Y'all are very playful but protective of each other.
Mm-hmm.
What has it been like having that camaraderie going into this industry?
It's great, and it's awesome because at a con like this, where usually all our tables are next to each other and we're hanging out, and I remember Anides and Zeno knew each other before I had known either of them, or at least more closely. I had been cast in like an indie audio drama with Anides a little bit before she was cast as Nessa in Mariko. So I was kind of like a fan. I would not in a weird way, but I would message her. We were already friends because of the audio drama. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. That's so cool. And she'd be like, how are you doing? I'd be like, I'm still trying, taking it day by day. That was our dynamic. And the same thing with Zeno. I would just be in his comment section in his Twitter and be like, oh, you're so cool. I want to be just like you when I grow up. And now there's this mutual respect between all of us outside of me and Anides being engaged. There's like this, we all want each other to succeed at all times, right? Whenever a new anime comes out, or no, it's coming, me and Zeno will look at each other and it's like, if not you, then me. That's kind of our mindset. We're like rivals, but we're always supporting each other, and it's really nice to have that so close by in my life. It's awesome, for sure.
What has been your most memorable experience being a voice actor so far?
Oh man, my most memorable experience. It's kind of a couple things. My most memorable would probably be getting that first, you booked it for anime. Well, actually, no, I lied. Before that, it was my first audition for anime, was Jujutsu Kaisen. I had sent random emails out. I was in Massachusetts. That's not a place where you get auditions for things like that. And I was just betting on myself, and the person at the studio said, thank you very much. And I said, no, thank you. And then a week later, he was like, oh, you want to read on this? And it was already my favorite manga. So I was like, yes, I do. So I did, and I didn't get anything, but it was like, wow, they finally are trusting me with something of this magnitude. That's so cool. And then of course, right after that, it was booking my first anime, which was technically Kemono Jihen, even though I had auditioned for Tokyo Revengers before that. And then I booked Tokyo Revengers within 5 days later. So that was just, it solidified me as a professional in the industry. It showed that I belonged, because it wasn't like they gave me bit parts or, background voices or anything, which there's nothing wrong with it. But they trusted me with these main character roles kind of right off the bat. And I was like, wow, they believe in me finally, and I've been believing in myself. It's so awesome that it's like kind of coming together now. And then of course lastly was my first convention was Anime NYC, and the amount of people that showed up to say that I meant anything to them was crazy to me, and it still is to this day. So yeah.
What's an underrated part of voice acting that you don't feel gets talked about enough, that you feel that people should know more about?
Does it positive or negative?
Your choice.
Oh wow.
Surprise me.
Choices. Negative. I'll do a little bit of both. Negative, I think people assume that it's easy because it's, oh man, I have a cool voice and I can do it. And I always tell people, man, your voice, if it is unique, that will help you out. But if you don't know how to act, you're not going to get very far. Because there's a lot of people that can do this. But if you can act like with that voice, then you're going to outact somebody else that's doing the exact same voice, and then you're going to get the role, not them. So it's more about your acting than anything. And 9 times out of 10, I'm booking with my normal voice, not with any high pitch, anything like that. And I tell people that they need to just go into VO at first to have fun. And sometimes there's professionals that are like, oh, you're belittling the craft and by saying that, to have fun, and this is hard, and we work really hard. And it's like, yeah, I know, but this is soul crushing. You're doing, if you book 3 out of every 10 auditions, you're doing amazing. Like, it's very, very real to go 7 to 8 months without getting anything, just straight nose. But then you'll take a class and they'll be like, you're amazing. And that's kind of hard to wrestle with, is like, how can I be amazing if I'm not booking anything? So mentally it can really hurt you. The positives of it is it's a lot more of a welcoming community than I think any other form of acting. There's a lot more work, so there's less competition. Or at least it feels like there's less competition. Obviously we're competing against each other, but we celebrate each other more. And it's less about how you look, it's less about how tall you are or whatever, how attractive or who you know. There's less schmoozing, there's still schmoozing, but in general, like, I feel like it feels like more of a community, and we all have our backs, and that's really, really cool. So if anybody's nervous to get into voiceover, just go for it. I always say just start. Don't paralyze yourself by wondering, how do I do it? Plug a microphone into your computer, go on one of the websites you recommend, like Casting Call Club or something, and just audition. And you might not get anything, but figure out if you love it, and if you do, then welcome. But if you don't, then that's okay too, and maybe there's something else for you in the entertainment industry that suits you better. So, yeah. You have your hand for a while.
Oh, thank you. Glenn Blow with Clean Authority. By the way, thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
So tell me, how do you get that, what you actually was talking to you, right? How do you get that emotion? Because he's an emotional guy, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you get that emotional to when he cries and all that? Like, you have a character that you portray that is a heartfelt character that everybody follows, kind of like Deku, like Naruto, stuff like that. You might not be the best, but then people still follow you. So how'd you get that kind of energy and stuff like that when you actually have to do the character?
When I did the audition, I kind of just went for it. I didn't read the description or anything. I read the words and I did what spoke to me, and that worked out. And it wasn't until after I booked it that I read, through the whole manga up until that point, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. And there's specific moments I wanted to get right. I was incredibly nervous because it was my first time being a main character. And Kamino Jihen, I had the most lines, but it wasn't the MC. So Takemichi, I was like, I just want to get him right. And luckily, I had taken classes and I worked really, really hard to be able to go as big as I can and go, cry and be sad and be vulnerable and be funny. And Takemichi is one of the rare characters that is all of that. I love solo leveling, but Sung Jin-woo is like really one note. Like, he has obviously his emotions, but he's in this realm and he doesn't really venture far off. Versus Takemichi, he's all over the place.
Everywhere.
Hawks is awesome, and we all love Hawks, but he's kind of always cool because that's his character. It's not a bad thing, it's just who he is. Takemichi, I don't think knows who he is, and I think he's constantly trying to figure it out. And I had a great director, and I had a great team behind me helping me out and making sure that I was hitting the right notes. So it was a lot of teamwork, but a lot of preparation just in general by me trying to learn how to become an actor. Yeah.
James Herndon on the podcast. What was the anime or show that you saw that led you into voice acting and said, like, this is something I really want to do, like something I can get into?
Yeah, you know, I grew up watching Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, just like everybody else on Toonami, and when I was a kid, I was adopted. You know, I was really, really young, and I didn't really have that emotional connection to anything, because when you're going through the foster care system, it's a little rough. So when I discovered Naruto, I was like, oh, he's just like me, right? He was a class clown, I was a class clown. I wanted to be seen just as much as he wanted to be seen. And there's that underlying like loneliness that I felt. And so, you know, as I got older, Naruto's still my favorite, you know, nostalgic wise, it's my favorite anime. There's other things that I think do, you know, tell the stories better, but Naruto's always going to be my favorite. So meeting Yuri actually this weekend was amazing. I was like, oh, hi, I'm and he's a sweetheart. He was like, he's next up. And I was like, how do you know who I am? Get out of here, Yuri. He's great. And that meant the world to me, Naruto, when I figured out that, you know, a woman plays the main character and this, an LGBTQ woman plays the main character of this story. You know, I'm not a woman, I'm not LGBTQ, but I am black. And I was like, if she can play this boy that's so strong that I had such an emotional connection to, who's to say that I can't play somebody that has that same emotional connection with some other kid or some other person out there? And I was like, wow, this is how I leave my mark. I'm good at it, and I can be that for somebody. And that's kind of what led me on to do voiceover.
Last question.
What is your favorite part about being a black nerd and being a part of Blerd culture?
Oh man, it's cool because the more cons I do where there is like black people everywhere, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Growing up, I felt like I had to hide it. You know, I wasn't the kid Naruto running on the playground. I wasn't the kid that was so unapologetically themselves. I was like them, but I was afraid. And to this day, I look back and I go, man, I wish I wasn't so afraid. But now people aren't. Black people are nerds too, and that's cool. We don't just have to like hip hop. We can like hip hop too, but we can also like anime, and we can like comics, and it's cool. And there's a place for us. And being a part of this, you know, I always tell people, like, I use Spider-Man as an analogy where I say, you know, back 10, 20 years ago, the whole thing behind Spider-Man is anybody can be behind the mask. Right? Doesn't matter who, like, you put on the mask, you can be Spider-Man, you can be Spider-Man. But if you're reading the comic, you know who Spider-Man is. It's Peter Parker. And who's Peter Parker? A white boy from Queens. So, like, now we have Miles Morales. And, you know, in the latest movie, we have the Indian Spider-Man, we have an Asian Spider-Man, and we have an old 40-year-old guy as Spider-Man. And it's true. And you see more and more black kids dressing up as Miles, and you see all these people, and it's the most incredible thing. So that's what, when I say representation is important, I mean that if you don't see somebody that looks like you in the space that you think is cool, you don't think it's possible. For something in your brain tells you, oh, well, I guess that's not for me, but that's really neat. So for me, I wanted to be the first person to do that, but also even in my experience, when I saw that Xeno booked Hawks, I was like, yes, I don't have to be the first one. And it just took a huge weight off my shoulders. So that, at least in terms of professionally, being able to just do well in the occupation I choose, I know it's helping people that look like me, and that's amazing. And in general, you know, I love being a nerd in this space. It feels like home. So, yeah. Thank you.
That's the end of our interview, and